Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, May 19, 2020. Today I'm going to talk about the latest news surrounding the coronavirus, go over yesterday's KBO games, look ahead to tomorrow's games, recap today's games, latest sports reruns, the Xfinity Series. I'll give you guys out a pick, and my 2016 top 10 MLB players and games. All right, we'll start the virus. Hockey is getting closer to a deal to restart the season. The 24-team playoff format is for real. You'll see some bad teams in the playoffs, and you'll see some good teams that wouldn't have made the playoffs if they had the normal format make it. So, there's going to be teams like the Rangers and the Islanders that are good teams that probably wouldn't have made the playoffs if the season went straight to the 16-game playoffs. And then on the flip side, you're going to have bad teams like the Canadiens and the Chicago Blackhawks in the postseason that aren't really that good, obviously. And they benefit from the 14-team format. And then there's the conspiracy theory out there. They're doing it just so the Rangers, the Canadiens, and the Blackhawks could be in the postseason because they're all original six. But the Rangers are good, and the other two teams are not. That's the difference. And I don't mind the format, especially if, the addition teams, the new 8 teams are playing for the right to go to the top 16. Or even those teams plus the wild card teams in each conference. So let's say those 8 teams plus the 2 wild card teams in each conference. So you obviously would have 4, 4, 2, and 2. So that's 12 teams. And then the winner of those mini series is go on to the real top 16. I think that's a cool way to do it. And then shorten those series and do a best of 3 instead of a best of 5 or a best of 7. And then you go from the best of 7 to the top 16, top 8, conference finals, etc. So, that's what I think is going to happen. Major League Baseball is talking about its plans for coming back as well. New York and California are open to having sports back, so that's great news. So Gavin Newsom did a complete 180. He was so against sports coming back, but the fact that he said that professional sports in Los Angeles can resume on June 1st is huge news for teams like the Dodgers and the Angels. And the latest rumor out of MLB is that teams are allowed to use their home stadiums. But now the next wild card is Toronto. And when they if they reopen that city before July, their extension got, or the extension for the closure between the border of the U.S. and Canada is closed for another month. So maybe that opens up, let's say, June 20th. That's a month from now. And then maybe the Blue Jays can conceivably play at home as well. So hopefully this all works out. And obviously the latest news I have, I'll talk about on this show. Now I'm going to go over this morning's KBO results and look ahead to the games that are being played tonight. So, without further ado, here we go. So, NC over Doosan 5-4, Kia over Lotte 9-2, Kaiwoom over SK 11-6, K2 over Hanwha 13-11, and LG over Samsung 10-6. And then tomorrow you have Lotte and Kia. I think Lotte will bounce back and win that one. LG and Samsung. Let's go with Samsung. Change it up a little bit. SK and Kaiwoom. Kaiwoom's winning that game. No brainer. Hanwha and KT. We'll go with Hanwha on the road. And then NC and Doosan. NC is just the obvious pick. They're the very best team in the KBO right now. They're sitting pretty at 11-1. LG is 12-4. 8-4. Getting a little ahead of myself there. So good for them. Kaiwoom is 8-5. Doosan and Lotte are 7-5. Kia 6-7. KT 5-7. So they're getting a little better. Hanwha 5-8. Samsung 4-9. And SK is still stuck in last place at 1-11. Now I'm going to talk about the reruns that have been on and will be on. Yesterday, they aired Chiefs Broncos 2018 week number 4, or might have been week 5. Patrick Mahomes leading the Chiefs to a comfortable win in Denver against the Broncos. Case Keenum was quarterback in Denver. Phillip Lindsay was a rookie, so that was one of the better games of the 2014 season on Monday Night Football. And Monday Night Football really has gotten a lot of good games over the last couple years, so it deserves more credit than people have given for. On right now on MLB Network, 2013 ALCS Game 2, Tigers Red Sox. That will be the game that is remembered the most for David Ortiz's grand slam to tie that game, and then Jacoby Ellsbury hit the walk-off double to tie up that series at 1 apiece. So that was one of the better postseason games over the last decade because of, obviously, a legend in Ortiz hitting that grand slam. On ESPN right now, 2011 World Series Game 6 between the Rangers and the Cardinals. That is, in my opinion, the very best Major League Baseball game over the last 10 years, easily, in my mind. That walk-off home run by David Freese to send that World Series to a Game 7. Joe Buck and his famous call, "We will see you tomorrow night." That is a all-time call by a legend, and that must have meant the world to Joe Buck because obviously he was the voice of the Cardinals. His father was the voice of the Cardinals, and this was not that long after his father's passing, and calling that moment must have really meant the world to Joe Buck. So I can't help but think about Joe Buck when I talk about this game in that moment. And David Freese also hit the game-tying triple in that game after the ball went over Nelson Cruz's head, and a catch that Nelson Cruz should have caught to for the Rangers to win their first World Series in franchise history. And now it feels like they're cursed a little bit because obviously that was a absolute brutal loss for them. And then the Cardinals blew out the Rangers in Game 7. 2008 NBA Finals Game 6 between the Lakers and the Celtics. This game has been on a lot during the quarantine. It was the Boston Celtics' first championship after that drought after the Larry Bird era. Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Rajon Rondo, Doc Rivers. Obviously, this is going to be remembered for Kevin Garnett in the interview with Michelle Tafoya saying, anything is possible. That's my big memory from that game. They absolutely destroyed the Lakers and Kobe Bryant in that game. And then, to the Lakers' credit, they bounced back the next year and won the championship. And then Laker fans will say we should have won that title because they had the big lead in Game 4, and then Boston came back and won to even up that series at 2 apiece because the Lakers were up 2-1 in that series. And in Game 5, the Celtics won to go up 3-2, and then Boston closed it out in Game number 6. So, obviously, that series is one that is memorable. 2006 World Series Game 4, Tigers-Cardinals. So the Cardinals getting a lot of love on MLB Network tonight. This was their other World Series when that team that won 83 games won the World Series. Albert Pujols coming into his own. Yadier Molina is a rookie. Adam Wainwright was a closer. So much was different with the Cardinals. from that point to the 2011. Obviously, Pujols' last season with the Cardinals was the 2011 season in which they won the World Series. And then the funny thing about the 06 Tigers is that Justin Verlander was a rookie that year. And I think they had Miguel Cabrera. That was the first year they had Miguel Cabrera. And then they wound up in the World Series that year, falling short against the 83-win St. Louis Cardinals. Now I want to talk about the NASCAR Xfinity Series. In a rain delay right now. You'll see that race go off eventually, hopefully tonight. I had the starting lineup pulled up for tonight's race, but here it is. So you got Noah Gragson, Michael Annett, Justin Haley, Ryan Sieg, Riley Hess, Brandon Brown, Austin Cindric, Brandon Jones. A lot of guys that you wouldn't know. Joe Nemechek, his son's now in the Cup Series, which is crazy. So I just rattled off the first couple rows. I think it was the top 10. So again, the top 10. Noah Gragson, Michael Annett, Justin Haley, Ryan Sieg, Riley Herbst, Brandon Brown, Austin Cindric, Brandon Jones, Ross Chaston, and Justin Allgaier. My pick to win this race is going to be Kyle Busch. He is starting in the back in 26th place in row 13. I like that he's has the ability to bounce back after a disappointing performance. Obviously, his disappointing performance in the Sprint Cup Series race on Sunday, even though this is I almost said a Busch race, an Xfinity race. It used to be called the Busch Series. But even though it's an Xfinity race, I think that Kyle Busch wants to come out there and remind people that he's arguably the best driver in the sport, no matter what league, minors or majors. It's amazing that Kyle Busch is still racing in Xfinity. So I'm going to pick Kyle Busch to win the race. He probably should be favored, or if not one of the favorites to win this race. I don't have the odds in front of me, but if I can grab Kyle Busch at a good number, I'm going to run to FanDuel or DraftKings and grab it. And obviously I'm going to make a pick for the Cup race for tomorrow night on tomorrow's podcast. Now I'm going to do my 2016 top 10 MLB players. This was an interesting list to put together. There's a lot of stars that were in their primes or entering their primes or at the end of their primes. Some of these stars were on other teams. I have a couple honorable mentions. Corey Kluber, Cleveland Indians. John Lester, Chicago Cubs. Justin Verlander, Detroit Tigers. Yes, he was on the Tigers and arguably should have won the Cy Young that year. The Tigers weren't a bad team that year. They just were the best team to not make the playoffs that year, as the Orioles got hot at the end of the year and stole that last wild card spot. And my top 10. 10th, Zach Britton, Baltimore Orioles. He had the best season ever for a closer. Or I don't want to say that. That's insulting to Mariano Rivera. But the best season for a closer not named Mariano Rivera. Let's just put it that way. He had an ERA under 1, which is incredible. He's never going to have that good of a season again, but he's still a good reliever today. But I thought because of how dominant he was that year, he deserved a spot on this list. 9th, Anthony Rizzo, Chicago Cubs. Was a big part of ending the Cubs' drought that year. 8th, Corey Seager, Los Angeles Dodgers. This was the year he was coming into his own and helped lead the Dodgers to the NLCS. 7th, Manny Machado, Baltimore Orioles. He helped lead the Orioles to that last wild card spot in the American League. 6th, Jose Altuve, Houston Astros. Love the Astros. There's they did not make the postseason that year. But he still was awesome that year. Hit a bunch of home runs for him. High average. He had like 15 or 20 home runs, and that's a lot for Jose Altuve. But he at the time was the best hitter in the game, and people may say he still is, but don't forget he was a part of that team that cheated, and this was obviously well before the cheating stuff came out. 5th, Daniel Murphy, Washington Nationals. He helped lead the Nationals to a division title that year, and then that was when they lost to the Dodgers in the postseason. 4th, Mookie Betts, Boston Red Sox. He helped lead the Red Sox to a division title after a 2-year playoff drought. 3rd, Max Scherzer, Washington Nationals. Helped lead the Nats to a division title, won the Cy Young that year, and is arguably the very best pitcher in terms of living up to a big contract like he has with the Washington Nationals. 2nd, Mike Trout, Los Angeles Angels. AL MVP that year. Didn't make the postseason, but he's still Mike Trout, and he belongs on this list. Number 1, Chris Bryant, Chicago Cubs. He's number 1 because he won the National League MVP and helped lead the Cubs to their first World Series since 1908 and was the best player, position player-wise, on that team. So Chris Bryant gets my honor for top MLB player of 2016. And now my top 10 MLB games of 2016. I don't have any honorable mentions. 10th place, Rangers Athletics. May 17th, Chris Davis walk-off grand slam and an 8-5 Athletics win. 9th place, Yankees Red Sox, September 15th. Hanley Ramirez walk-off grand slam off of Dellin Betances to help get the Red Sox going and running away with the American League East. The American League East got very close towards the end of that season. The Yankees caught up, even though they didn't make the postseason. The Blue Jays, the Orioles, and then that game was the running away point for the Red Sox and the fall of the Yankees, to be quite honest, because the Yankees went on that great run after they traded away Andrew Miller and Aroldis Chapman, and then Betances gives up that grand slam, and then they didn't recover from that for the rest of the season. And then at least the next year, they made the postseason and wound up going further than many people thought. 8th, Braves Mets. This was memorable. Ender Inciarte robbing Yoenis Cespedes as the Braves held on for a 4-3 win. He robbed Cespedes of a walk-off home run. That was a big game for the Mets. The Mets wound up hosting the National League wildcard game that year. So that was a pennant race game for the Mets that the Braves played good spoiler at. 7th place, Mets Phillies. September 22nd, the very next day, Mets win a wild 9-8 game. Came from behind a couple times against a bad Phillies team to help seal up their wild card spot. 6th, Orioles Blue Jays. September 28th, Orioles come back and win the game 3-2 in what turned out to be a preview of the wild card game. 5th place, Astros Indians. May 11th, 16-inning affair in Houston. Walk-off home run by Marvin Gonzalez. 4th place, Rangers Blue Jays. American League Division Series Game 3. Wild game. Toronto wins a wild 9-8 game. Wait a minute, was that the game with the debris? Or was that the previous year? Was that 2015? I think that was 2015, the debris game. So that wasn't it. But that was a wild game where the Blue Jays won 9-8, and I think that was a walk-off win for Toronto as well. 3rd place, Orioles Blue Jays. American League wildcard game, 4-3 Blue Jays win. Walk-off home run by Edwin Encarnacion. This game will be always remembered as one of Buck Showalter's worst performances as a manager because he didn't put Zach Britton in the 9th inning. Granted, it was on the road, but it was a playoff game, so there's exceptions to the rule. So, that's going to be a game that's not remembered fondly for Orioles fans and Buck Showalter. 2nd place, Dodgers Nationals, NLDS Game 5. Dodgers win a decisive Game 5 on the road as Clayton Kershaw comes out to get the save in the 9th inning. So that was one of Clayton Kershaw's better postseason moments after Kenley Jansen pitched the 7th and the 8th. And then Dave Roberts made a wise decision to put Clayton Kershaw in to close out the Nationals. And at number 1, is there any doubt? Cubs-Indians, World Series, Game 7. Cubs win an absolute classic of a game. I believe that was a 9-8 score as well. Obviously, Aroldis Chapman giving up that home run to Rajai Davis in the bottom of the 8th as Cleveland came back from, I believe, 5 runs down to tie the game. And then the rain delay happens, and then the Cubs get the go-ahead hit by Ben Zobrist, and then they get another hit. The Indians score a run in the bottom of the 10th, and the Indians had the winning run at the plate. I forget who exactly was at bat for them at that point, but it was a role player. It was somebody that was a bench player for them. And then Chris Bryant makes the great defensive play and beats the guy running the first base, and then the Cubs wind up breaking their long-awaited drought. All right, so that's it for today. I know, short podcast. Tomorrow will be a longer one because I'm not doing a show Thursday because I'm traveling for Memorial Day weekend. And so Wednesday's podcast is going to be very busy with coronavirus news, previewing the Masked Singer finale. We'll be previewing Millionaire. We'll be previewing the Watch Party show. And then we'll talk about any other news related in the world of sports or coronavirus like I previously mentioned. And then obviously my top 10 NBA players and games of the calendar year 2016. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.